Greetings. My name is Mothupi. I'm the CEO and founder of Indepart Human Capital. We are your guide to building and sustaining a high-performance culture. I promised you last week that we're going to finish strong. My guest, Audrey Mothupi. She's impeccable. She makes you believe. Her energy is infectious. She's intentional. She's creating meaningful and futuristic jobs as a CEO of Systemic Logic. She leads the leader. She's the chairman of Rodin School, serves as a non-executive board at Pick and Pay and Life Healthcare. She chairs both remuneration committees for both the companies that she sits as a non-executive director. To add to her accolades, recently she completed a course with MIT in artificial intelligence. Welcome, Audrey. How are you?
I'm great. Especially being here with you, even better.
Thank you so much for honoring this invite. Thank you for your time. I've obviously observed your career throughout the years. I met you as a young girl while you were in corporate. Take us through your journey. How did you get to where you got to?
You know, first and foremost, I want to actually give credit to you in terms of your company and how you've started it around high performance, because I think every single one of us, our journey, both personal, in corporate, and everything we do is really about being the best and the better person of who we are. So if I look at my own journey, I think my journey is a story of many. It's a story of the leaders who believed in me. It's a story of those that believed in me enough to follow me in the teams that I led, whether it was at SABC, at Liberty, at Standard Bank, and now proudly, I call myself actually the Chief Hassling Officer. So you forgot to mention the one important thing. I'm the Chief Hassling Officer of Systemic Logic. So in a journey of high performance, in a journey of self, the story is not complete if you haven't challenged yourself to get to where you are. So I've tried everything. I headed up strategy, I've done banking, insurance, and now in the digital tech space. So you talk about AI and machine learning. The future is STEM, the future is digital, the future has data in it, and I'm talking about data scientists and data analysts. So I'm still on a journey. So you've asked me about my journey, but I don't think I've actually got there yet.
Oh, wow. What do you consider to be the makings of a good leader?
It starts with being quite vulnerable about yourself, and that's a big one these days, because the makings of a good leader is not to be perfect. It's the perfect imperfections around you. It's the ability to say, I don't know. It's the ability to take risks, and more important, to identify people around you that are actually clever than you are. So in my journey of leadership, a part of successful teams and successful implementation has come from having truly high-performing teams made up of individuals who one could look at from the outside and say that's a perfect misfit of individuals, but the difference there was it's a perfect group of really intelligent people, all of whom always and often as a leader I make sure are smarter, cleverer than I am and can dare to challenge me, and more important, are able to push themselves as I do myself.
Oh, wow. I like that. You're not ashamed to hire those that are smarter than you. What attributes do you look for when you're recruiting?
Personality. We all have CVs and we write about all the amazing accolades that we've had. If I look back, and I'm talking a journey over 22 years, so this is not just yesterday, I would argue that some of the best people came with attitude. So I still look for that attitude, that spark in the eye, that believer, and you'll see it. So if you look at CVs, if I look at 5 or 10 CVs, I'll find really exceptional individuals in terms of how you write, what you say, and what you do. But there's a real difference when you meet the person and they're hungry. So there's a hunger that comes with it. They have a can-do attitude. And they're also not ashamed to actually take on challenges that they themselves have not done before. So when you're looking for individuals, look for people who are believers first in their own vulnerability to say, I can dare too because I can. And I'm not ashamed to say I don't understand what I'm going to be doing. So you can hire the best lawyers, the best data scientists, the best DevOps, the best scientists, the best HR execs. if they don't have the right attitude and are not passionate and believing in what they can, I can do. So often in interviews, I'll sit back and watch. And in the line of questioning, we all know too well the same questions. Tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
Tell me what you've done. What's your greatest achievements? Interesting enough, the passion and the attitude comes out when you ask the individual, talk to me about your biggest failings.
Yes.
So at what point, and whether it's a personal failing, whether it's a business failing, whether it's a personal journey, those are the people I look at because the answer to that matters. The second question that helps me differentiate key individuals is a question around how and whether they see everyone around them. And you typically ask a simple question. When you walked into the building for the interview, who did you say hello to?
Yeah.
Who did you notice?
Yeah.
So when I talk about attitude, it's an attitude embedded with a value system of who the person is. I want to hire the person. I don't want to hire the degree.
Now you're known for implementing. Systemic logic implements. They execute. They get stuff done. What does it take?
You've got to start with a vision. And your vision has to be back to the can-do attitude of the purpose of why. Why are you doing what you're doing? I wake up every day to create jobs and to create wealth. I've woken up every day to create jobs and create wealth for as long as I can remember. Whether I was creating jobs in a corporate, whether I was creating jobs as I do now. And the reason I say that as a personal vision driven by personal values is because if you wake up with that purpose, and for me personally, it's about creating jobs, it means that I need to bring more people that are brighter than I am, because every time systemic logic wins, it's not because of me, it's because of my staff and every single person that's come through. So the implementation part comes from having a sense of self-worth and self-accomplishment. So in implementation, you've got to be quite ruthless. So what you say you're going to do, you have to do it. There's no excuses, there's no shortcuts. So one of the things I always say to my team is that first and foremost, there are no stories. We don't tell stories about why I couldn't. We tell stories about how I exceeded expectation. So implementation, all strategies that I've come across, even in the sector that I'm in, are very similar. The real differentiators that I've found are the quality of the people. We've just spoken about people and having the right people, and the speed of execution. And that speed of execution comes from two things. It comes from the ability to tackle the challenge, and if I'm going to deliver something in 2 days, if I can deliver it in 1 day, that's my speed of execution. That's the one thing. The second thing that drives your speed of execution is very quickly unpacking the critical success factors. What needs to happen for this to succeed, and what would go wrong? So if I know what will go wrong up front with my teams, then we know we can push it through. And then finally, when you're implementing, mistakes do happen. When you do make a mistake, be the first as a leader to say, I actually got it wrong, and admit to it. Because when you do that, you're also sending a message to your teams, it's okay to make mistakes, fail fast. And when you fail fast, it means that you're living up to the exceeding of expectations. Because part of failing fast is by giving yourself a turnaround time that's 1 day instead of 2 days. Because when you fail within the first day, you can actually still deliver it within the second day that you promised the client. And if you didn't fail on the first day, you've now exceeded expectations. But you've got to, there's no shortcut for not doing what you said you're going to do. So from a client point of view, there's no shortcut from actually delivering on projects. I mean, I have data scientists, data analysts, strategists, and process engineers. When we sit in front of the client and the teams say we're going to transform this project and this process over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we've got to be able to do it in 2 weeks. Why? Because in the third week, you're evaluating the impact and the value created.
Leadership requires you to make decisions.
Correct.
Bold decisions. Execution requires you to act on that decision. How long does it take you to decide?
You can't waste time making decisions, but you have to gather all your facts and your data. Now, gather facts and data, people will say, actually, I need 10 days or 18 months to do research. Actually, no. There are 2 ways of making decisions that I've lived by. Sometimes I walk into a meeting and my gut tells me.
Oh, wow.
So believe in your gut. And my gut just tells me. And you know, the times that I've made decisions without listening to that gut, I've made the wrong decisions. And my gut tells me 2 things. One, you've got this. You've got to make the call now. Tomorrow is too late. Or my gut tells me step aside and gather more information. So decision making is not an instant issue. Decision making is about, do you have enough information at that point in time, or are you prepared to take the risk? Because you know if you don't take that risk, it gets worse.
You're energetic. You have a sense of urgency. Every time I speak to you, you're focused. What inspires that urgency that you have?
Oh, I call myself a change agent. My music, I dance the music of success. And I dance the music of success, your success, my success. So I mean, sitting here, I'm so excited to see what you're doing, and I'm so proud of you, but incredibly proud, because out there's a little girl, and I said little girl, doesn't matter, black, white, blue, green, yellow, that is looking at you and your company and thinking, I can't do that. And what you've just done is inspire. So my energy comes from inspiration. I've been inspired by men and women, both alike, locally and globally. And in fact, for me, every time I see a leader that has managed to fail and build that resilience and jump up, I go back to them. But I think at the heart of it all is the person I am and the child I was raised to be. I was raised, first and foremost, born and raised in exile, raised to parents who education was non-negotiable. So you had to build an inner curiosity. So I'm one of those people who wake up at 4 in the morning, yes I do, and I just search to see what's happening in the world. And I get very excited to see, and I've said to my team, empower yourself before your day starts. Oh, remember that. Empower yourself before your day starts. And it's become a habit. And I find that it gives me, when I find something interesting that's happening, a change, an opportunity, my mind goes and connects the dots. And I remember the little girl who actually reminded herself nothing was impossible. I had a maths teacher, by the way, in the primary school many, many moons ago. These are some of the things I haven't even said to other people before. And I remember and that's why I believe young women particularly believe that you can do and be anything. And teachers are important. I mean, I'm at Rodin also because I'm reminded of those good teachers. And I'm coming back to the maths teacher. I had a maths teacher who literally would say to me, Audrey, there is nothing that boy, because you know, I come from a generation where, like it or not, our girls were told we couldn't do maths. I mean, you're in a different generation where the STEM programs, you're told you can. Yeah. And she always used to say to me, there's nothing that he can do that you can't do. And I remind myself constantly that at the heart of what drives me is actually this crazy notion that nothing is too big, too small, or impossible. Nothing.
You can do it. Nothing is too big, too small. Systemic logic. What skills are currently in demand right now?
Yep. Anyone out there looking to go into the workplace, just be curious. Data scientists, DevOps. There are so many free, I mean, if you look at Udemy, free courses, go and empower yourself. I mentioned empower yourself before you go out and get the work done. Go and be curious. Learn how to code.
Yeah.
Understand data. When I talk about data, I'm not talking about, cell phone data. I'm talking about data science. I'm talking about the ability to gather and pull information to deliver results, because within that information is a story.
Yes.
So every single organization, every single individual has a pattern and a history, and the information is based on data points of what you've done. So be curious around what this data science thing is. Be curious about being a DevOps person, but also be curious about what it takes to also go into spaces of empathy. Mental well-being is a big thing today. So the change management, the need for psychologists, the need for people who are project managers. If you're a great project manager, enhance that skill and add a dev component to it. Digitize your knowledge in what you're doing, and combine some finding. Even at Systemic Logic, we combine both the social science part of it and the hardcore science of it. So your social scientists, your English majors, your history majors, also have a space in a place like Systemic Logic, because the combination of the products and the processes we're solving for the future require the left and the right side of the brain. The creatives, there is space for creatives. There is not a single product that's being put out there and developed that does not have an impact or a fingerprint of somebody from a creative space. Why? If I only let my DevOps and my data scientists to design products, none of us would find them interesting. So you do need, from a user interface and a component, to make it interesting and fun. Even your phone, I can tell you now, Apple, the design and the creation of all the apps, they look great because there's a creative mind that thought through from a consumer point of view, what does this look like in the end? What does the customer want? Your developer and your techie and your data scientist will design the engine or the back components of what that app needs to be, what it needs to be like, the functionality. But you need the creatives. So the creative component is important. So at Systemic Logic, actually, back to my attitude and passion, and you can do, there's space for everyone. So creating jobs and implementing also doesn't mean boxing people. We have to connect the dots, and every single person today in any organization has a role to play in the creation of value for that company. So we need to use every single person.
Now, Systemic Logic is present in 9 different countries. West Africa, Eastern Europe. How?
It's called a hassle.
She is a chief hustling officer.
It's called a hassle, but it's also called, you've got to be prepared and do your work. You don't just pack your bag and land in Nigeria or Bulgaria and expect to, now I've arrived, I need to get the work done. So you have to actually put in the work and the effort. And if I tell the story of the different countries, it's a combination of literally cold calling and finding yourself in places, getting on an aeroplane and finding yourself in a lobby waiting to see a CEO or whatever. Just believe in yourself. And when you believe in yourself, it's possible. But once they open the door and you're in, you've got to do the work. There are no shortcuts. So the success that we have across the different geographies and regions is actually a testament to the product and the process and the work that we do. If you look at Europe, for example, the success of what we do was in entering in strategic partnerships with the likes of Capgemini and Atos, who are big French-based companies. So it doesn't matter how big or small you are. There is a strategic partner waiting for you. So as a South African woman employing South Africans, I knew in certain markets, I needed to be bold enough to say, actually, you're doing the same things I'm doing. This is the value I bring. This is the value you bring. Give me a chance.
Just give me a chance.
Give me a chance.
What are you reading, Audrey?
Oh, you'll make me cry, because the book that I'm reading now has made me cry a million times over. In fact, I've finished it. I'm going to start again. It's Viola Davis's Finding Me.
Oh.
And for anyone who haven't read it, go and find this book. And it's interesting that you're asking me this now, because if you look at the Women, is it the Women King, or the movie that's come out recently with Viola Davis, the Black, and the challenges around the slavery and the legacy around that. But Finding Me has components that I could relate to one way or the other. And it talks to the resilience of a black woman who we've all come to know and celebrate through her success. And it reminded me again of, only when you've succeeded, people will look at you and celebrate. But until you know the backstory of how that person got to, Viola Davis opens up about the abject poverty that she grew up in. She opens up about the hassle, working real hard and having to exceed expectations in her craft, to be noticed in the likes of Juilliard, and to get to that world-renowned, awarded actress wasn't an easy track. But I think there's a story in there, particularly, and I said proudly, I'm very female biased and I'm very woman biased, black woman biased. For any black woman or any woman reading that book, you'll find yourself in the resilience, you'll find yourself in the courage, you'll find yourself in the pain, and funny enough, as South Africans, you'll find yourself in the constant challenge and gift for those for whom much is given, much is expected. So she talks to the vulnerability of having to look after her family even after being successful. We know that. Yes. We all still do that. And then the extension of that family to every single person that you meet. Every single young girl that I need to mentor today is family to me, and I need to do that. So please go and find that book, Finding Me. I finished it, and I'm going to start again. Oh, wow. And it's because there's so many lessons, there's so many parallels of the grit, the sheer grit. We're living in challenging times where, from a leadership point of view, locally and globally, we have to ask ourselves, stop looking for the leaders, be the leader.
Yeah.
So she had to lead herself to success. but there's also an acknowledgement again around teachers. She talks about a teacher and a headmistress, the empathy and the support provided. She talks about the sense of community, whether it's neighbors. She talks about the pain points of, even we talk about femicide and the challenges around GBV in our country. She talks about issues of personal, abuse and assault for people around her, young women growing in poverty. So you should have asked me that, because it's almost a spiritual journey of self. So Finding Me is a beautiful title as well. What are we doing here? We're finding each other in this hustle of leadership and implementation. And what I love about the book as well is that grit around getting things done. So we've spoken about getting things done, whether it's in the corporate or the personal, in the creatives and the arts, whatever you're doing, just believe in yourself and get it done. So companies today will succeed because the people employed in them are empowered, trusted, and respected to deliver. So implementation is nothing more than believing you can and then getting it done. And if you're leading an implementation team, you have to be tough enough to challenge. You have to be bold enough to take the risk. And more important, you have to be strong enough to hold them accountable to the promise of implementation.
But you also have to be comfortable with success. How do you train someone to be comfortable with success?
You don't train anyone to be comfortable with success, because I'm still not comfortable with success. And I think we need to also demystify this feeling that people who are successful know they're successful and they need to celebrate successful. Anyone who's truly successful is still on a journey to succeed, because every time I take a step forward, I'm challenged. And I think the success you talk about is about being results driven.
Yes.
So the differentiator for me is you have to deliver results. So if I say I'm going to deliver a product, I'm going to deliver an app. So if my team's developing a platform or a product or an app, success is in managing to not only deliver it to the spec, but slightly exceed expectations. So that's the one thing. Then there's a personal journey of success. And I think the personal journey of success, funny enough, the more you succeed, and if I look at my own journey, the more you're exposed to your own vulnerabilities, and the more you start appreciating the perfect imperfections about you. So I know my entire corporate career, I was told I'm tough on people. And for people watching who I was tough on, Ish, I'm sorry. Ish, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm actually the toughest on the people that I know has the most potential. So when you're on a journey to succeed, please, I'm begging you, if you've got a manager who you're waking up and you're going, I can't deal with this person, unless they're petty and picking on you, that's a different issue. But if they believe in you and they see that fire in your eyes that I mentioned, they'll be tough on you because they want you to succeed. And I think for me, I've appreciated managers who've been tough on me. And more important, on the journey of success, I've appreciated that in my vulnerability at 52, I can say it, at 52, my vulnerability is knowing, actually, that whatever it is that I'm supposed to do right here, right now, hasn't even begun.
At 52?
Hasn't even begun.
She hasn't started yet. And Systemic Logic has done well. During COVID, they continued to pay out performance bonuses. Their employees are exceptionally happy. It's a company you definitely want to consider and work for. We are proud ambassadors of Systemic Logic. We love the work that they do. We love math and science. We love engineering. How do you replenish?
How do I replenish?
Yes.
I hibernate. I do. So one of the things that I've enjoyed doing over the years, I hibernate, I read. There are times where I could disappear on a Friday to a Monday, having left my home, because I'm reading, I'm relaxing, I'm just completely recouping. Reading is good. Travel is one thing. And I used to do yoga. I need to get back to that, so that hasn't been great. And as you know me too well, we meet on early morning walks.
Yes.
So that early morning walk that you found me once in a while on those Westcliff steps is really about replenishing less the body but the mind, because you allow yourself to let go, to shade. So that it's a good thing. Most of us keep going, or we say we don't have time. We need to make time. And the making time also happens in the early stages. I'm lucky now, I'm at an empty nest. The girls have graduated, going to university. But in the early days, how did I replenish? I found mothers, working mothers of young children, it's very, very tough out there. And the way to do it is to not be ashamed to seek help. Yes. Not to be ashamed to say, actually, I need time out. Get that nanny, get that sister, get that friend, and say, can you have Zoya for a sleepover? So those sleepovers, sorry, my child, they were sent up to, and Melita were actually sleepovers so I could replenish. So make time before you completely go into a breakdown.
Thank you, Audrey, so much. I mean, we're nearing the end of the year. Our community is feeling a little despondent. We feel like we're not being led. Eskom is not kind either. The mood is somber in the country. We have high unemployment rates. We have gender-based violence, femicide. What can you say to those many women and girls out there that are going through the most, and perhaps they've lost a little bit of confidence and they're just settling? And just for basics, what do you have to say to them?
It's simple. Just don't give up. We just need to actually believe and hold on to the grit inside each of us and together. And I think as a country and as a community, we need to look at each other even more. We need to find ways of collaborating. We need to pull together. We need to pay it forward. I believe in paying it forward. It starts with whether or not you're walking into an office building and asking, truly asking, how are you? And if you can, any of us that can, just empower one more person. If you're in an organization that's looking to recruit people and you're sitting there saying, I've got vacancies, I can't find people, innovate. Dare to be bold and, seek out to see where you can find those individuals. If you yourself are sitting actually as an employee of Eskom right now, because we keep saying Eskom, and are trying your level best to manage the resources that we've got, just breathe and just don't give up. Because I think that moments when I found myself almost really down, never depressed, but really down, is when I start having the conversation in my head around, actually, I can't do this anymore, or I can't take it. So a simple exercise for all of us is to start eliminating the conversations, because I can only change what's within my control. So let's start eliminating the conversations that almost always are in the negative. I can't. No, actually you can. I can't get up this morning. Yes, you can. I've got nothing to live for. Actually, yes, you do. You walk up, you're breathing. And then let's also then pull in the support, because I do believe we're going to get out of this together. There's a power of a collective. South Africans, I mean, when we win a sporting event, we're out there together.
Yeah.
When you attack one of us, we're out there together.
Absolutely.
I mean, the number of times I check social media and I say the South Africans, and I'm like, oh goodness, what did anyone do to South Africans? Because there's a power of collective. And I think there's something truly unique and beautiful about a rainbow nation that the world will need. South Africa can teach the world how to heal. So let's not give up, not now.
Thank you so much, Audrey, for joining us. Thank you for the work that you do at Systemic Logic. Thank you for affirming me. Thank you for the opportunity that you've granted IndiePath at Systemic Logic. Thank you guys so very much for joining. Until next time, we wish you the courage to implement. My name, Masachaba Baloyi. I'm the founder and CEO of IndiePath Human Capital. We are your guide to building and sustaining a high-performing culture.